The World Trade Organization is the only international organization dealing with the global rules of trade between nations. Its main function is to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. The result is a more prosperous, peaceful, and accountable economic world.
This is the beginning, and everything's at stake.
There's only one thing that the ruling interests have ever wanted, and that's everything.
What we are against is trade at any cost.
This is not about trade. This is about a corporate constitution.
We're pitted to be pitted against each other in a race to the bottom. Who will accept the most miserable working conditions?
Well, I think it's a very telling fact that you can go out on the street anywhere in the United States and ask people to give you one sentence about the World Trade Organization, and they won't be able to say one intelligible sentence about what it is, where it's based, what it does, when it was created, whose interests it serves, whose interest does it hurt.
We are talking about trade agreements which don't have to do just with trade, but they have to do with every aspect of life. They have to do with agriculture, they have to do with our forests, they have to do with the environment and nature, they have to do with how we lead our lives, they have to do with what kind of human rights we have.
Most Americans don't know about that. They know there's some big rich guys up there, Bill Gates and this and that. They don't really know how the whole financial structure of their country and the world has been put into place and has been operating, treating them as grist for this system.
The World Trade Organization is based in Geneva, Switzerland. It groups 134 national governments who signed on to a treaty called GATT, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. And they agreed to abide by these rules. And the World Trade Organization is, in a sense, the court that decides when there's a dispute between corporations, between governments, how will it come down. It's very instructive to look at the record of all the cases that the WTO has ruled on, whether it's the sea turtles versus corporations, the dolphins versus corporations, the small farmers versus corporations. In every single case, the WTO has ruled on the side of big corporations and against people and the environment.
Cards are stacked against the small farmers. Cards are stacked against anyone who is on the periphery of the system. It has really become a trade which benefits the corporations at the expense of the poor.
The first 100 agreements by the WTO were all for the benefit, all on the side of rich multinational corporations and against public regulations, the environment, labor, consumer interests and rights, and also democratic sovereignty.
They understand that we can possibly get control over government and have government implement laws favoring we, the majority of the people, and the environment. They don't want that to happen. So they've created this supranational institution that is capable of doing an end run around government and canceling out federal, state, and local legislation that requires local content, that requires hiring local workers, that requires recycled materials, anything that would put restrictions on the conditions of production.
They're leaving the democratic accoutrements and democratic forms there. We still have all our elections, we still vote for all our senators and all that stuff. What they're doing is simply taking away the things that we can legislate about, the things that we can exercise our democratic sovereignty over, and they now have set up this WTO, which acts almost as an international veto power over and above the U.S. Constitution.
The kind of economic sanctions we could impose against, say, South Africa, or now we talked about, dictatorship in Burma, those kind of actions cannot be taken anymore. Our decision-making power, our power has been taken away because now All these are seen as a trade barrier by the World Trade Organization.
These guys are playing for real. There's only one thing that the ruling interests have ever wanted, and that's everything. They want all the investment, all the returns, all the wealth, all the advantages, all the civilities and comforts of modern society, with none of the costs, none of the taxes, none of that. And that's what they want. They want everything. And really, we should give them nothing.
This is not just a third world fight. It is not just a fight of the Americans. It's a fight where all of us have to globalize and come together. We have to see globalization from below for this one.
Before dawn today, activists from the Rainforest Action Network scaled this crane and began the process of setting climbing anchors to begin to unfurl this message.
The protest today was aimed at sending a strong message to the Seattle and international community that the World Trade Organization is a threat to our democracy and specifically to our hard-won environmental, health, safety, and labor laws.
Each of you represent thousands of other people around this country and around the world.
I think trade can be something that brings peace and prosperity to the world, not just money to a few corporations.
Lebanon is an observing member in the WTO, and I hope we can do something to convince them not to join.
A very exciting thing is emerging here in Seattle in people's opposition to the World Trade Organization. Labor groups, environmental groups, and human rights groups are coming together, in some cases for the very first time, because they realize that the WTO looks at a worker or at the environment as in the very same way, something to be chewed up and disposed and spit out.
Well, I think that the people that are out here, been standing in this rain for over half an hour, demonstrate the commitment that American workers have to the proposition that they are not going to lose their jobs to a nameless, faceless international organization. While they're in there dining and eating hors d'oeuvres and drinking wine and champagne, we're out here saying American workers are going to stand together with the rest of the workers on this planet, and we're all going to have decent wages, we're all going to have good jobs, and they're not going to drive us down to the bottom.
I'm here today to join with all my brothers and sisters, and it's kind of amazing to see how many there really are who want to stand and protest against the WTO. And people are here. It's going to be a glorious bunch of days here showing our administration and the world that we care about labor and the environment, fair trade, not free trade.
We came from Japan for protest to WTO.
I want to protect Japanese culture.
My organization advocates on behalf of shareholders who are trying to change corporations as shareholders. So we had shareholder resolutions with Home Depot trying to get the company to stop selling old growth wood. And in August, the company announced that it would stop selling old growth. But the WTO threatens that. If eco-labeling is considered a non-tariff barrier to trade, then there's no incentive for corporations to stop unsustainable harvesting practices of wood. And so eco-labeling is essential, and that's what I wanted to say had I been given the opportunity, but I've been shut out.
It's been going on since the beginning of this continent's so-called creation, you know what I mean? I mean, it's been going on under everybody's nose, right in their face. So it's like everybody's asking all these questions. What is the WTO? How does it affect me? It's everything they're eating, everything they're wearing, everything they're watching, everything they're hearing.
It's raising a lot of consciousness, and I've been seeing it go on for the last month around Seattle. People have been preparing for the WTO people have been asking about what's really going on, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of minds are being opened up by this, so I think it's progressive and it's positive overall.
And our history so hard, just people got to sow our seeds for the next season, and our children are dying as a result of our self-treason. So we'll destroy the whole future just so they will stay breathing. In the moment they exist and unconscious of the fact that time moves on and time moves on.
It's all around them already, and they're sitting here talking about fight it, fight it, fight it. Should have been fighting it since you were born. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm teaching her about. Well, yeah, right there.
What is it to be when you're not free? If I'm a slave, then I'm not me. Just a fucked up image of what my captors wanted of me. But we're not free as long as others aren't risen. We can't be. That means that I'm not me, but I'm responding to a higher calling. Still an individual, cause my response is unique to my being. Enslaved to the struggle to free humanity. And if in a battle within the world that lasts for eternity. And if I ever stop fighting, my spirit will cease to exist. So I continually resist the evil's attempt to arrest we. An underground MC tangled up in the roots of the humanity tree.
Why are you here tonight, or what kind of stuff were you into? What's going on? Well, I'm a poet who opposes the system and all these mental prisons that I see surrounding me. So I illustrate my feelings through words, and that's what I just did in front of a crowd of many.
It's a Bible, but you must stand to live your life, and you must rise, and you must rise.
The tenants movement around the world, because of the effects of globalization and the pressure, the extra pressures that puts on tenants, which are basically landless workers, is that they're becoming more militant and they're engaging in large-scale direct actions and stuff like that.
We're here because there's a lot of people in town without places to stay, and we're a bunch of squatters that want to open up this place to the public.
We're teaching people how to respect one another, act collectively, trust each other, so we can go out and send a message to the world that the WTO is a horrible idea. It's bad for people, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for us. People need to know that, and we're here to bring that message to the world. The WTO has the ability to override all governments, local jurisdiction on environmental issues, human rights issues, labor issues. They're going to become a power unto themselves and override all of the rights and laws that we have to protect us. Non-violent direct action. Some people may choose to risk arrest, some people may not, but all of us are looking for creative ways to bring our message and let the WTO know they need to respect our humanity. I think that there are many responsible people here who care very deeply, who have a lot of passion, who are out there to non-violently bring our message to the world. The police are more of the problem than anything else. They're here to protect the people who are trying to violate our laws, and we hope that they exercise judgment on the day of and realize that we are peaceful people who are trying to demonstrate our rights.
Jubilee 2000 is a campaign to forgive third world debt. Too many people in too few countries have all the money. So we're out here to send a message to WTO that it's something that's really important to a lot of people.
We really do need to relieve debt from the poorest of the third world countries, because people will be forced to sell off their natural resources to pay their debts.
This is an interfaith group. We've been rallying up at the First United Methodist Church, and we're out here. The rain can't stop us. We got something to say.
I want to tell workers around the world that we're here to change and we need their help. I really don't understand that myself, you know, but we're here to get away with them. That's why the union's here. We're going to try to change things, try to do away with that WTO.
We come out here to protest the WTO because of the policies they're trying to impose upon us, upon the working people of the world.
We are united for our working people in the world. Just come together and support each other, really.
If workers in this country are in solidarity with workers in India and workers in Europe, then you'll see a rise in standard of living. And so that's why we're here in the rain, you know.
I'm protesting for workers' rights. I'm protesting for a living wage, a decent wage, a dignity, against slave shops, against child labor. And this is not a new issue, it's an old issue. We've been doing this for 200 years, and the issues are the same, and we're still fighting.
And as part of the labor movement, we're worried not only about jobs but the environment, and the WTO is a corporate combined with corporations and corporate leaders that are strictly worried about profit. basically comes down to democracy versus corporate rule. You know, the people's got to stand up on our hind legs and you know, save the world for ourselves, because all they're trying to do is pick our pockets. After we leave Seattle, that's when the real work comes in. This is kind of fun right now, and we're making a big noise and kind of putting it on the map, but we've pretty much got to go back and organize in our unions and in our towns, and you know, make sure that we put into place the kind of democratic structures, both on the local level and the global level, that'll essentially enable people to take control of our lives back from the corporations.
This isn't about whether or not we're for trade or against trade. It's what's the rules of the trade game going to be. And so we have a chance to say, not everybody in this country thinks the way that President Clinton thinks, to the whole world. That yes, we know that the planet gets smaller by the day. Yes, we know that trade is important and can change people's lives. But we need to have rules that put people before profits. We need to have rules that put the planet before profits. That's what this debate's all about. And this discussion that's going to go on in Seattle over the next few days, and all the civil protests and the demonstrations and the public debate and dialogue, is hopefully going to be a cornerstone for change.
I'm an activist. I'm also a steelworker, and I wasn't going to miss the invitation that Bill Gates put out. Even though I'm not invited to the World Trade Organization, I am planning on protesting in the streets. I oppose almost everything that the World Trade Organization stands for. I believe that we need regulations placed on capitalism.
Well, our history has been when we have tried to talk and sit down across the table with anyone that we want to make a point with, and we're not successful, that we are willing to and able to take our message to the street, to the people.
It's the place to be. I mean, this is the largest demonstration against corporate greed in America this year. The underlying issue is corporate greed. That's what brought us all here. And it's wonderful to see the young people and the trade unionists and the seniors and the farmers and the environmentalists and everybody coming together.
Clearly we need an organization. We need rules. We know that within society. But those rules need to be constructed. Now, so we're saying, fix it. This is your game. We're out of the WTO. You're in the WTO. Fix it. Fix it yourself. Or, as somebody said a while ago, nix it. Yeah. One of the two, fix it or nix it.
It's going to take all of us to get together and stand up for our rights, and stand up for our brothers and sisters, and stand up for our next generation, and their generation, and their generation.
We're here in Seattle to draw international attention to this ministerial conference. We're here to educate people about what WTO is and what it is not. What you have is a faceless government who's making international decisions to determine what the workplace is going to be about, what trade is going to be about, and they right now are making decisions in favor of the multinational corporations, and the little people are getting left on the cutting room floor.
You know, at the beginning of the century, the effort on the part of ordinary people was to basically civilize a national economy. Now we live in a global economy, and we have to make sure that it works for working people. I mean, it can't just be the big conglomerates, it can't just be the big agribusinesses, it can't just be the Wall Street interests that are at the bargaining table. I mean, families need to be represented. The vast majority of people need to be represented. So this is a great gathering. The point is, we want to make sure that you got a trade agreement that has some respect for the environment, outlaws child labor, has some decent guarantees for people to be able to organize and bargain collectively to earn a decent living, respects human rights. I mean, that's what we're saying. And the vast majority of people in the country agree.
One of the great joys I had was walking today in that parade. As we walked today from the church over to the rally we had on the environment. And those of you that were marching, it was such a uplifting spirit. Dave Foster and I and a few others were at the front, and these young kids kept running ahead of us. The people in the turtle suits and the other young people, they kept going ahead. And I said to Dave, you know, these young kids aren't going to walk as slow as us. They're giving us the damn message. They want the world to change, and they aren't going to wait for us to do it. We better damn well do it ahead of everyone else.
we have got to stand together, united in solidarity as a global trade union movement, representing all workers on this planet, saying that we ought to get our fair share of this global expansion, this economic expansion on a global level. That every worker ought to have the right to form a union if they choose. That every worker ought to have the right to collectively bargain to get a fair share of the pie. That children shouldn't be forced to go to work every day. That, adults shouldn't be forced to produce products against their will. And that we ought to end discrimination based on employment, whether it's gender, whether it's race, whether it's culture, whether it's organizational affiliation. We need to sweep that to the side and work together to make sure that we're all sharing in the prosperity, and not just multinational corporations.
I have done these kind of marches all over the United States for the AFL-CIO, and this one just simply hasn't stopped surging. The cross-section of America will be on the streets of Seattle during our march tomorrow. It's going to be huge.
Well, I think they realize that it doesn't work for working families, working people. It's they really understand that it's about corporate greed and increasing the profit line while decreasing the wage line, and people's standard of living is being reduced every day, including ours right here in the U.S.
We won't get this opportunity again. And let's think about this, because I think we should put it in a context for the viewers. This is the largest meeting on international trade in the history of the world. It's the first time the WTO has met on American soil. It will be the last time in our lifetime that we'll probably meet on American soil, because by the time it rotates through its 134 plus countries, unfortunately I'll be dead and gone. So we won't get this second chance to set the stage.
We've got to be concerned about what these smaller national companies are doing to our jobs, and we need to fight and make sure everybody as a collective effort gets together and fights for our rights.
I'm here to stand up for the American worker, to stand up for the American dream. My father left me, he died last year, and he said, I made this world better for you, you make it better for your children. So I'm here trying to make it better for my children and stop the WTO from making it worse for all of us.
After the bill passes the Senate, if the president doesn't like it, he vetoes it. But if he likes it, he signs it, and then it becomes a law.
Good. What about the WTO?
What's that?
The World Trade Organization. They're like the most powerful organization on the planet. They've already overturned 3 U.S. laws. Laws that protect American workers. And the environment. All that Congress passed. And the president signed.
The World Trade Organization?
I'm telling you, the WTO is vetoing us.
Say no to the WTO.
I went up to Seattle to start a brand new world built from the heart, and stand beneath the starry crown. Good world, show me the way. Come on people, let's go up. Come on up, don't you wanna go up? Come on people, let's go up to Seattle to start. Well, I went up to Seattle to see what's become of democracy as tears roll down my tear-gassed eyes. Good world, show me the way. Come on, children, let's go up. Come on.
The World Trade Organization is the only international organization dealing with the global rules of trade between nations. Its main function is to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. The result is a more prosperous, peaceful, and accountable economic world.
This is the beginning, and everything's at stake.
There's only one thing that the ruling interests have ever wanted, and that's everything.
What we are against is trade at any cost.
This is not about trade. This is about a corporate constitution.
We're pitted to be pitted against each other in a race to the bottom. Who will accept the most miserable working conditions?
What's your name and what brought you down here? Where are you from?
My name's Kale Shannon, and I'm a native of Seattle, Washington, and basically I was down here to shut the WTO down, to send a message that, you know, what you guys are doing is wrong, and you need to back off.
Who's gonna benefit? Not most people. Only a percent of it. That's not equal.
Why did you want to come down here? Oh, I just saw in the television there's lots of things going on down there and for the WTO trade organization, and it's the first time in my life I saw such a big event. I just want to see what happened, and I just want to see who are doing those things in whom, and I just want to come down and look around. Personally, I don't really much know about this thing, but that time, since I'm a Tibetan girl, I just think the people has to pay more attention to the right of the people, not like making much money or doing more economic thing than doing the right of people.
Well, 200 years ago, we established a principle in this country that ultimate political authority does not reside in the king or the president or the Constitution or the Supreme Court or the Congress. Ultimate political authority, sovereignty, resides in we the people.
I don't want to lose democracy for my children, for my grandchildren, and the way the WTO is set up, we're losing it. And if we don't all stand up, we're going to lose it.
We're on our way to be near the convention center, try and prevent today's meeting from taking place.
So are you in the lockdown crew?
I'm taking part in that, yes.
Okay. Why do you feel that a strategy like a lockdown is important? Why do you think this is the right way to go?
I think it does two things. One is that we're actually physically standing in the way of what's going to happen today, and that's important for us to do. And second of all, it demonstrates that people are willing to both go outside of the boundaries and put themselves at risk, and that they feel this is really important, and that's something that people around the world need to know, that this is a very serious thing.
Human need not corporate greed. Human need not corporate greed.
My name is Gopal Dayaneni. I'm a preschool teacher from Berkeley, California.
And what's brought you out here today?
What brought me out here today is the totally undemocratic way in which major decisions about human population are being made by the World Trade Organization. You've got people here from all over. You got labor, you got environmentalists, you got teachers, you've got children, you've got coalitions between people of color.
Well, the question you asked me, do I think that we have power? I mean, that's a really great question, and I think we do have power. I mean, I think when people get together like this, it's powerful because it will bring attention. It has to be covered. It has to be looked at, and just that word will spawn conversation. If no one came out for this and said, hell, you know, those guys know what's best, let them do their thing, and just read the nightly news or sat down in front of TV and watched it that way, then I don't think there'd be nearly as much questioning. You know, there wouldn't be nearly as much meat for conversation. So in that way, I do think there is power in the people.
We don't have a vote, so they won't either. We don't have a vote, so they won't either.
What's going on here today?
We're demonstrating the WTO. We're trying to shut it down.
What do you mean shut it down?
Well, right now we're blockading the entranceway that most of the delegates are trying to get in. So we're literally trying to shut down the meeting.
Value of direct action is to have our voices be heard and hopefully stop this meeting from happening so they can do no more harm.
Well, why don't you just write a letter to your congressperson?
Doesn't work. Let's get real.
Some people should write letters. I think letters have their place. Letters are good. It's not the only thing you need to do. Some people have taken it into their own hands to like stand in front of the machine of so-called progress.
As far as I know, there's a general, every street that leads to the convention center has a corner blocked off to prevent the delegates from entering within the thing. And it's also outreach too, because people have signs and the artwork and everything like that.
So what's going on here today? We're shutting down the WTO. What do you think?
Well, I think the value of direct action should be concrete. We should do things that aren't symbolic, but rather accomplish things here and now. Directly shut something down, or at least cause so much financial damage that our message gets to the CEOs.
What's your message?
Our message is that commodification of life is wrong, dominionism is wrong, capitalism is wrong, and that all beings desire freedom. I gotta go.
The plan is to take Seattle and have fun with it, I guess.
What's the WTO all about?
It's all about greed. It's all about, look at these kids up here. They got a sign up that says, don't trade our future. For these young kids in the street today, it's about their future being traded off by corporations who frankly don't give a shit what happens to them. That's what it's about. That's what people are fed up with it. They understand it.
Direct action brought these people together. Many of them on the street I've talked to have never been in a direct action before. They feel very empowered. They're starting to understand that people can be empowered and take charge of things themselves, and direct action is perfect for getting people in that role to take charge over their own lives.
We'll never be divided. Together, united. We'll never be divided. Together, united. We'll never be divided. Human needs, not corporate greed. Human needs, not corporate greed.
They have not started the WTO meetings because of you all.
I've seen an incredible amount of discipline on the side of the protesters. I've seen people remain composed under unbelievably duressful situations. I've seen people tear gas right in the eyes, remaining seated while they're praying today.
They're tear gassing 16-year-old girls sat on the ground. It's outrageous.
They kept telling us to move, and we didn't move, and they tear gassed us, and they moved in.
No more violence. No more violence. Don't let anyone. No more violence. No more violence.
The police began to spray tear gas into the crowd and shot rubber bullets indiscriminately into the crowd.
This is an overkill. They could have had these guys standing way back around the corner, had regular officers out here. This is like almost we dare you to act.
fear. We have no fear.
Are we here and are we ready to march? Sisters and brothers, we are the story of WTO, and the WTO will never be the same.
The free trade advocates of the WTO have come to Seattle to further their strategic takeover of the global economy. We, in the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, want to give them the welcome they deserve. So we've closed the Port of Seattle and other ports on the West Coast. There will be no business as usual today.
Don't ever forget one thing, that the trade union movement is the most powerful voice that speaks for workers in any nation. We can literally change the course of history, and we're taking that first step here today. Thank you.
Too many people have given their lives, and our children are losing hope under an unjust economic system, an economic system that wants to divide us from each other. But we will not today be divided.
We've got a tremendous crowd. This is a great day, and this is being watched by people throughout the world. That we are mad as hell. We're going to change things. We are the people that want to change things. All these people here, and I think that message is getting through.
Today is not over. Today is not over. This will build into a trade policy that the Clinton administration will have to respond to protect workers' rights and environmental rights.
We march not for elimination of commerce, but for the elimination of human need. We don't want to reform globalization. We want to replace it. We want to replace it with a new internationalism driven by our mutual concern for dignity, fairness, and freedom.
It is a demonstration of all working class people all over the world, rich country, poor country, white country, black country, all countries.
Vine a Seattle para unirme con todos los trabajadores y trabajadoras del mundo para juntos y juntas reclamar nuestros derechos.
I came to join the rest of the workers from around the world and be workers here in Seattle to reclaim our rights.
As workers of the world, we are saying today to the WTO, we are going to fight you and your policy wherever you are.
United together, we can win. We're the coalition that stopped Fast Track. We're the coalition that stopped MAI. And we're the coalition that's going to tell WTO, you're going to be fixed or you're going to be next.
Today is going to go down in the history as the day America's working people said, enough.
You ought to be up here to be able to see yourselves. You look beautiful. You are the people. You are the power. And we're going to show it today when we march.
Moving, moving on,
Moving on.
moving on, moving on, moving on. Nothing can stop me now. Nothing can stop me now.
Here from this stage and in the streets of Seattle, where we will take the examples of the students and stage a simultaneous silent sit-down against global injustice halfway through our march. We are united. Our demands are simple and clear. Every worker deserves protection of basic human rights, prohibition against child labor, slave labor, discrimination, and the freedom to join together with others in a union. The WTO must incorporate rules to enforce workers' rights and environmental and consumer protections. WTO proceedings must be opened up to give citizens a meaningful voice. National and state laws and regulations concerning public health and the environment must be safe from global veto. And the ability of governments to safeguard their people from devastating import surges or product dumping must be strengthened. Until the WTO addresses these issues, we should not and must not permit our country to participate in a new round of trade negotiations.
The rules of the game have changed, and the rules apply to everyone, workers and people around the world, and they have not respected the rights of workers. They have not understood that while they protect property rights and intellectual property and other rights, they have not had the decency to recognize that worker rights are human rights and they have to be respected as well.
We made history today. We're letting labor's voice be heard to the world leaders, and to let them know that we would like fair trade, not just free trade. And we had a beautiful turnout. The weather was Seattle-ish, but we made it through. Thanks.
Organization's the key, and that's where it starts.
Workers, wherever they're at, are one and the same, and they believe in the right things in life. And we have got to stand up and reclaim a valuable heritage, that there is a difference between good and bad and right and wrong. And doing worldwide business on a global scale has to be done for reasons that benefit all of humanity.
If all the work goes to the other countries and they aren't going to give them fair pay, then it's just not equal. It's not right for that.
Well, the reason we came is because we came to confront the injustice that WTO has created on third world countries. We feel that as Latinos, we need to start and be the forefront of the whole thing, because we can put, for one example, NAFTA. NAFTA has affected us directly. The reason it's affected us directly is because, we have Latinos that are working for $40 a week. It's unbelievable just the working conditions that have been created in Mexico. Pueblo unido.
Pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Guys are steel workers from Spokane. There's been 3,000 of us on a strike lockout for 14 months. I'm here because I've been on 5 strikes, 1 lockout, and 1 company closing over the last 25 years. So I'm pretty much tired of this kind of corporate behavior. And what I've heard today about all the stuff that's going on with child labor, and I just don't think that our children should have to go through what I'm going through, and then what other people around the world have to go through. Enough is enough.
There's 315 of us or so locked out. Always in the threats the company Kaiser Aluminum gives us is that they can make product cheaper in Ghana on the Gold Coast of Africa. They say it costs more for shoes and clothes for Canadian citizens than it does for wages. And so therefore they say our wages cost over 6 cents a pound in the price of making aluminum, but they don't have that cost disadvantage in Africa.
We're fighting. These are companies that rape the environment, they abuse the people. In this case here, they're trying to replace the workforce. Today was a historic day. It was a historic day for the city of Seattle. It was a historic day for the WTO. But most important, it was a historic day for workers all over the world. This was not just about Seattle. This was not just about today or this week. This is about workers' issues being on the table in all of our trade agreements and in all of our trade negotiations.
We actually shut the WTO down for 5 hours. How do you like that? There's such an uplifting mood among our membership that today we made a statement not just for our workers, but for workers all over this country. We stood up for those young children that are working and literally in slave labor in so many countries. We stood up today for the many people who have no voices in their own countries and who are forced to work for poverty wages.
You're going to hear it on the news tomorrow. Even tonight, they're going to be saying, oh, well, those demonstrators, they broke the windows of some stores in downtown Seattle. They broke the windows of Nike Town. Yeah. Well, what about Mr. Phil Knight, the head of Nike? How many hearts has he broken in sweatshops around the world? Why don't we talk about that? Why isn't that on the television sets? And what about the 3,000 families down here at Kaiser Aluminum? And what about Pueblo, Colorado, where there's a lockout down there of steel workers? Why are we talking about that?
I think it's interesting to look that some of the targets in the last couple of days were the Gap, Nike Town, Starbucks, McDonald's. What are those symbols of? Those are symbols of multinational corporations that have no respect for the people who produce our clothes, the farmers who grow our food. Totally corporate view of the world in which shareholder profits is the only thing that matters.
Some people from the public sector decided to turn a trash can over, light it on fire while the police were throwing tear gas bombs, shooting rubber pellets into the crowd. The crowd was throwing stuff back at the police.
I see.
A bunch of people got hurt, a bunch of people got gassed. There's a fire going on over there.
We've gotten hundreds of orders in the last 3 weeks for riot batons. It's been modified to for a more specific purpose of just moving people or creating a hole in a crowd to get through if you have to go into a crowd to find somebody, or to get somebody out, or to arrest somebody.
So Mr. Anderson, you killed the second. Stop it! Stop! Stop! They're human! They're human! They're human! They're human! This is human! They're 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 children just like yours! They're children just like yours!
Got the cam grip shape, so it fits the natural shape of the hand, and it gives the person using it the feeling of having a striking angle, a striking edge, so they get proper striking technique. And if you've done any of the eskrima, you know a little bit how you have to swing it, sort of like you're swinging a sword. And so it helps remind them of that. You can roll that thing to get compliance and submission for the person you're putting down. Or if the crowd is just simply pressing against the officers when they're trying to control them, it's something to keep some space between the officers and the front of the line. Well, it's pretty far up the line as far as where the use of force is going to take, how it will unfold. And if things become violent, if the officers are attacked, or if the crowds refuse to move away, then you can go to a stick or to chemical weapons. But a lot of things happen first.
You all right, dude? You all right?
My work backlog is shameful. People are waiting a long time for some of this stuff.
Fuck you! He was crying.
So right now, update, Wyatt, want me to tell you what's up? They're not even talking to us. They're not even telling us any kind of orders. They won't tell us who's in authority.
The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching. The whole world is shame. The whole world is shame. The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching.
The news people from... Jesus, did you see that?
They're coming in here.
Hey, you better not come in here. Block it. Ah! Rescue it. Hey, get this guy. Come on. Jesus. Stop. Block the door. Block the door.
Lock the door. Hurry.
But get this guy. This old guy. They're trashing this old guy here.
They're barricading the door.
Block it. Block it.
Lock the guys. Get him.
That's fine. It's a Look at this.
What kind of people are these? So scary.
Have we got a ditch up here?
Look at you.
I can't believe this. This is surreal.
Thank you, Brian. Can you let us know why?
I was ordered
I know, I
to keep
understand.
you guys in here. I'm following orders.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's as far as it goes for me. I'm doing what I was told to do.
Okay, now I understand.
Simple as that.
There's a guy behind him with the mustache you want to talk to, Joe. Who's that guy? Okay, close the door.
No, you guys sprayed us without.
We're not. Nobody's spraying you right now.
You did though.
Okay. Yes, Tim.
I went up to Seattle to start a brand new world built from the heart and stand beneath the starry crown. Good world, show me the way. Come on, people, let's go up. Come on up, don't you wanna go up? Come on, people, let's go up to Seattle to start. Well, I went up to Seattle to see what's become of democracy as tears roll down my tear-gassed eyes. Good world, show me the way. Come on, children, let's go up. Come on.
The World Trade Organization is the only international organization dealing with the global rules of trade between nations. Its main function is to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. The result is a more prosperous, peaceful, and accountable economic world.
This is the beginning, and everything's at stake.
There's only one thing that the ruling interests have ever wanted, and that's everything.
What we are against is trade at any cost.
This is not about trade. This is about a corporate constitution.
We're pitted to be pitted against each other in a race to the bottom. Who will accept the most miserable working conditions?
in this global economy, we are bound together. We are bound together in a way that we never have been before.
When labor and student and environmentalists and human rights activists stand together, we can and did shut down the WTO.
There's an unbelievable power in the people, in the trade union movement, when we work together, when we take the human rights activists, the environmental activists, the civic groups, our community coalitions, and we ally this with the labor movement. There's no force in the United States that can turn us back. You're in the rain in the streets of Seattle because you're not in the WTO in the ivory tower. You were treated shabbily. If this was my city, I would apologize to you for that happening in this city. And I want to welcome, this is where you belong, right here with the labor movement.
I think it's making history and it's exciting. And it's been very exciting to see the labor movement come together and really enforce, be out there and send a message to people that we are against the WTO.
You know, it was insane that it got so violent and crazy. I mean, I'm wearing non-violent stuff. Just, you know, I'm here for non-violence.
Can I ask why you're writing numbers on your arm?
In case we get separated and we need to contact the people we're with. I just thought it was disgusting how undemocratic the WTO is, and I don't understand how such a small group of people can have control basically over the entire planet, and it's disgusting.
I hope that this just doesn't be demonstration and some chaos. I hope something really real result from these demonstrations.
What is going to come out is that the message has been sent all across the world and all across the United States. What we're going to see is that people are getting energized.
I'm a member of Earth First, and we work to protect the environment, and we've recently entered into an alliance with the steel workers. We have an alliance for sustainable jobs in the environment, and we're completely tired of we don't buy into this, you know, there's jobs and environment thing. We want them both, we deserve them both, and we need them both.
We were able to show a good demonstration against the WTO, and hope that they get the message from us, from the labor movement and from the rest of the groups too.
I'm a locked out steel worker now for going on this starts our 15th month right now today, and I don't appreciate our jobs all going overseas to a lower pay. If they want to send jobs over there, pay them comparable wage, then it isn't as bad a deal. But when they're just going over there to give them pennies on the dollar so they can make them dollars, that's not right. Not right to not only the workers but to the environment, because they do not have the environmental laws in other countries that we have here.
Say no to WTO. We think WTO is going to ruin the lives of the American people as well as the lives of the people of color all across the third world.
I have no name. There's no escape. I work more than 12 hours a day, 7 days a week to meet my quota. I've always believed that the illnesses of individual people are basically rooted on the illnesses of society in general.
The streets of America are paved by the sweat and blood of the people that the United States have extracted through plunder by exploiting the colonies and neo-colonies.
We'll look at U.S. imperialism, you know, over the Philippines. And basically it is like a colonizer who's colonizing a colony and not having to stay there, thus making the Philippines a neo-colony, just a client state. The United States could go into the Philippines and use it as a port of call, as a military staging ground. You know, they could access cheap labor for the Philippines, raw materials to fund big industries and foreign monopolies.
Well, the Filipino government has accepted hook, line, and sinker the neoliberal policies that are imposed by the United States, Japan, and the other European countries because they profit from this. The local elite in the Philippines has benefited greatly because they are also the ones who become local partners of the multinational corporations.
The government is so desperate in trying to lure foreign investment inside, it's willing to bargain away our land, it's willing to bargain away utilities, media and education, areas of investment and business that used to be reserved for nationals.
Minimum wage in the Philippines right now is 198 pesos. So with a cost of living of 446 pesos, you know, this is not enough for everyday living. The Filipino women, a great number of them are now going out of the country to migrate to other countries to work as domestic helpers. Some work as entertainers and become victims of sex traffickers. And even in our own country, there is now a growing number of women and children who become prostitutes.
The only escape for Filipinos is to find jobs outside. And the Philippines right now is the #1 exporter of human labor in the entire world. They're saying that globalization is going to help the Philippines. But we know from 50 years of globalization and 50 years of direct colonialism that globalization doesn't help the Philippines. It keeps it backwards technologically, and it keeps it tied to a debtor economy.
Yesterday was just wonderful. I mean, I can't remember the last time a major American city was shut down by progressive forces protesting corporate greed.
Well, I think it's really great that the people are speaking up. It's time that we did not turn our backs on sweatshop workers in other countries, and also on child labor and on all the human rights abuses. And I think people are waking up in the U.S.
News coverage that I've seen have only been watching the radicals. The glass were broken out. Now those are bad things, and we agree. We're not about that. But not to cover the main issues about taking jobs out of America and all the labor rights, the child labor rights, the rights of human beings are being taken away by these people.
It's just amazing how people can get together for a common cause of stopping the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. I believe that everybody should have a right to a good life. You know, we all don't want to be millionaires. We just all want to live our own life.
Need a couple more books? Oh, hell, that's stupid. Who are they going to guard? Are we going to invade the country? We live here.
This is one of the rubber bullets that the police fired at the demonstrators yesterday. And I was actually there when that was happening, and it seemed like the tear gas was fired first, and then people started breaking windows as a response.
I don't know what happened. I know that we had a march and a rally of steelworkers, environmentalists, students, and others that went down to the waterfront for a symbolic steel dumping. It's like the Boston Tea Party, well, this was the Seattle Steel Party, right? And they were coming back, and for whatever reason, officers started pursuing them or another group of protesters in which they combined and pursued them. I don't know how many blocks that is, but it must be 12 or 14 blocks, and pursued them all the way down here and cornered them down between Broad and First, and then made quite a few arrests. It looks like 2 busloads of arrests. And they were firing tear gas and concussion grenades, and it's my understanding that some of the folks were trying to figure out a way in which they could exit, but that didn't seem to be an option, right? That was given them. And so I was trying to just help.
The few windows that were broken were no big deal compared to what could have happened. The police are overreacting, and now they're taking the peaceful protesters that are out here and treating them really wrong. It's wrong. They should realize that if we wanted to raise hell out here, it could have happened.
Well, I think the labor issues are really the damage that the WTO is doing as far as the laboring people throughout the world. The laws and the legislation that we pass is really overridden by the WTO. You know, we don't have a democracy anymore, and the democracy is being lost.
You know, I'm out here, I have a 7-year-old child. I'm out here to voice my opinions on how we should protect our environment for the future. And I have the right to assemble, and my rights have been taken away today. I'm not sure if I still live in America.
How does that make you feel about democracy in America?
I don't believe we have democracy.
We're all fed up with having other interests control our destiny.
On one hand, you know, we are fighting for our own sovereignty and our self-determination to implement our own environmental protection laws to protect our people and our health. So if United States or Canada, you know, is being threatened by its sovereignty, then, you know, that's something our tribal leaders have to be concerned about. We were really concerned that there wasn't going to be an indigenous presence here, especially in these issues where we feel that economic globalization has a disproportionate impact to a lot of the indigenous peoples throughout the world. We feel that it's part of the new form of colonialization, which is still the main issue of colonialization that's impacted our people here in what we call Turtle Island for over 500 years.
No podemos permitir que la arrogancia y locura continúe degradando nuestro aire, agua, tierra, bosques y animales.
We, as children of the Mother Earth, cannot allow this arrogance and insanity to continue degrading our air, water, land, trees, and animals.
Definimos el medio ambiente como el lugar donde están nuestros vecinos, empleos, escuelas, juegos y lugares sagrados.
We define the environment to be our neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, playgrounds, and holy places
que han contaminado con la avaricia corporativa.
That have been polluted by corporate greed.
Aquí estamos para informarle a la Organización Mundial de Comercio que ya no toleraremos más promesas rotas, que no confiamos en que respeten nuestra salud y nuestra seguridad, nuestros derechos laborales y salario vivible.
We are here to inform the World Trade Organization that we will not tolerate more broken promises, that we cannot trust them with our health and safety, workers' rights and living wages, our environment and our natural heritage, as well as with our democratic, accountable governance.
Tampoco en nuestro medio ambiente y herencia natural, al igual que en una gobernabilidad democrática y transparente, que nos unimos a los hermanos y hermanas de todo el mundo en nuestra determinación y decisión de ponerle fin a esta explotación.
That we are here to join our brothers and sisters from all over the world in our determination and resolve to end this exploitation.
So long as we're able to maintain our traditional cultures and to fulfill the responsibilities that many of our traditional societies have been given to be caretakers of the earth and to continue the traditional ways, then we're very powerful. We're more powerful than even they are. They might have the control in their hands right now, but that's very different than power.
Peaceful protest! Peaceful protest! Peaceful
The very first shot I heard, something hit me and I fell. And then I think a couple other rooms must have opened fire because as soon as I looked back up, there was a few piles of smoke coming up, and I kept hearing more shots going off and people were scattering.
So I don't have anything wrong. You were coming up from the steelworkers rally, maybe 1,000 people or so, and only 6 cops, and you were walking parallel to the police line, and one of them knelt down and suddenly opened fire.
That's exactly what happened.
Well, thanks a lot, Joe.
Thank you so much.
You're feeling better?
I am already. Thank you.
Bag of tear gas.
Can you describe what happened? Someone?
Well, we're legal observers, and there was a march down the street, perfectly peaceful, arm in arm, and the police simply opened fire, no warning, tear gas, rubber bullets. They came in mass, and now they're chasing people with armored cars. This was a peaceful demonstration that included labor, that included young people, that included all kinds of people. It was completely unprovoked, totally unprovoked.
The Lawyers Guild and a lot of other people actually have trained legal observers to be out in the community and not to really be involved with the demonstrations, in fact to stay somewhat removed from them, but to be able to be in very good positions to observe, especially to observe the behavior of the police.
They've been ripping gas masks off people's faces. They have apparently, we've heard rumor, found it to be under martial law, to be against the law for anyone other than police to have tear gas or gas helmets on, and so they're ripping them off people.
Well, I heard there was something about a mayor saying there's a mayoral decree saying you couldn't have signs, protest signs.
Right, they've also removed protest signs from people. Anything that declares any kind of opinion about the WTO is being removed from people.
I think the basis of it is this state of emergency where Mayor Shell said that if people are seen within this certain region and they engage in protests, they'll be considered automatically to be doing something unlawful. It's really a fairly blatant suspension of the constitutionally protected rights to assemble and to speak. So, you know, when that spins into, well, now you can't even own a gas mask, now you can't own a banner, now you can't own a protest button, you know, it seems that those can't possibly be restrictions on people that have any basis in the Constitution.
Orders, they gave the orders to move forward. We were standing there asking to go through, we did not provoke them. And I saw them pepper spray her directly, and they tear gassed all of us. I saw them push her down and walk through her.
I think a lot of people, based on what the history is of protest in Seattle, thought that what was going to happen was a mass arrest. So this big civil disobedience action, people have been adhering to civil disobedience, have been trying to promote it for, you know, decades. And what they thought was going to come of that was mass arrest. That's always how Seattle has responded, you know. In a way, it gives people, even the arrest gets the due process rolling, you know, and people get their day in court and they get to say why they were there, and yes or no, do they have a right to be there. But to just wage this kind of chemical warfare on people, it doesn't even give them the benefit of their day in court, you know, it just removes them from the street without the police having to justify or having to press any charges or having to say that they're doing anything illegal, just to push them back block by block with these terrible noxious chemicals.
We had a rally down at the docks, and we went through the Pike Market and came up to the corner and saw those police chasing the kids down the street. These are the same kids that have been marching with us. They weren't doing anything wrong. And they were tear gassing them, and I've never seen it before, and I said, well, I'm going to stick around and watch it. Now they tear gassed us, and now they pepper sprayed us.
I think so much was done that was so blatantly illegal and so blatantly abusive. I think many courts could find in the favor of people who were victimized, whose rights were violated, whose bodies were brutalized, and you know, I suppose it depends on the court, but they're not marginal legal issues. They're pretty clear, you know.
I'm just so ashamed of my country right now. I'm crying because I got pepper gas, but I'd cry anyway. I mean, it's...
Peaceful.
watching. The whole world's watching.
For many people visiting or working in downtown Seattle, today was downright scary.
Starbucks is open!
Protesters.
Demonstrators.
Anti-WTO revolutionaries.
Gangs. Looting. Taking advantage.
About 5 or 6 canisters released.
The police gassed us for no reason, and the media is telling the world that this is a way to control people. Or they say that we are people who do not know what we are protesting or what we are talking about.
The whole focus has been on the violence and the destruction of property, not on the issues that people are out here demonstrating about. The media has intentionally just glossed that over.
One's down, trying to get up.
Just totally ignored it. That's what the real problem is out here. The people don't have a voice to express, their griefs.
The media all over the world is not buying that story. This is the US corporate media. I heard from a friend in India who said the headlines in all the mainstream newspapers in India were celebrating the close down of WTO meetings yesterday. And across class lines, across party lines, it is being celebrated in India.
The mainstream media I saw last night made it look like there were some people breaking windows and the police had to restore order.
Later on, I see on the television saying that the police have used this to control people.
Inside their locations that were quite upset by
People did not need to be controlled. We were marching peacefully.
The mainstream media is slanted. It's always slanted. It wouldn't have mattered what happened out here yesterday.
They have failed to represent and inform the readers of what is going on in the streets.
Maybe 1% of the massive amount of protesters that were out there chose to do property damage. They totally lost sight of what all of this is about. It's why people came from around the world to be here.
And yes, some vandalism has occurred, but it's very little compared to the number of people who are out there chanting and asking for peace. And we need to be very proud of our young people for the kind of restraint, for the kind of belief in nonviolence and peace they have demonstrated. Citizens of this country, and here I speak as somebody from India, citizens of this country need to be very proud because they should know there's a great future ahead in this future generation of ours.
They carry no signs about cops?
We just got down here.
Just got here?
They're late. They don't even know that this is a no protest zone.
Yeah, they're supposedly not allowed to have signs.
Yeah, so if those guys see you, they will mace you.
But I think they got more important things right now. They're trying to get the president out of town, apparently.
I thought he was leaving tomorrow.
You guys with the World Trade Organization?
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you think about the meeting so far?
It's going pretty well.
It's going well? I heard that a lot of delegates were leaving.
No.
No? Everything's going fine? Business as usual?
So far.
Yeah? Is this like the normal situation World Trade Organization expects for future meetings?
I doubt it.
No? They'll think they'll have it under control by then?
Well, I think people will start to realize how important trade is and they'll back off on some.
Maybe the World Trade Organization will realize how important the environment is and how important labor rights are.
I think they do.
I hope they get them. I hope so. Because people are angry,
Yeah, well, a lot of people are ignorant too.
Well, yeah, that's true. But it's not like the World Trade Organization knows it all. You gotta listen.
I've been working on this for 28 years.
Yeah.
I know it very well.
What have you? Can I ask what you've been working on?
On international trade for 28 years. It started with after the war because the failure to understand the importance of trade helped to cause World War II. Brought Hitler to power. And it was after World War II that people said that can't happen again, and the GATT was
people are feeling like it is happening again in this country.
What is happening again?
Fascism.
Oh.
I went up to Seattle to start a brand new world built from the heart and stand beneath the starry crown. Good world, show me the way. Come on, people, let's go up. Come on up, don't you wanna go up? Come on, people, let's go up to Seattle to start. Well, I went up to Seattle to see What's become of democracy as tears roll down my tear-gassed eyes? Good world, show me the way. Come on, children, let's go up. Come on.
The World Trade Organization is the only international organization dealing with the global rules of trade between nations. Its main function is to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. The result is a more prosperous, peaceful, and accountable economic world.
This is the beginning, and everything's at stake.
There's only one thing that the ruling interests have ever wanted, and that's everything.
What we are against is trade at any cost.
This is not about trade. This is about a corporate constitution.
We're pitted to be pitted against each other in a race to the bottom. Who will accept the most miserable working conditions?
Still in a state of civil emergency.
What's the emergency? Do they see somebody breaking the law? If they see somebody breaking the law, do their damn job and arrest them. Don't come and gas indiscriminately.
They're coming in and they're shooting off all sorts of shit, and their police are doing all the violence here.
First and Pine. 1 block north of First and
And if you look at injuries sustained from officers striking someone with a nightstick, there are none. So I think the officers have showed remarkable restraint throughout the event, remarkable poise, and I am incredibly proud of their performance.
The police will be doing everything, and everything they can, and their very best in a confusing and complex situation to distinguish between lawful, peaceful protesters and people who are practicing vandalism and unlawful behavior.
Chemical warfare on civilians, and that's against the Geneva Convention. It's under international law. They're violating international law by gassing their own citizens.
That's what that dude is right there, man. Right there. Get that dude in the picture right there. That's what that guy is.
I got some pure gas. My eyes and yeah.
What?
Bonnie Watson. Are you familiar with Bonnie Watson?
For real. And that guy was stealing his shit.
And we got maced, and we got sprayed, and I'm tired of this shit. There it is.
Look at this pepper spray right here.
We ain't doing nothing.
I mean, tear gas.
Yep. That's tear gas right there. We're tired, man. Hey, we live on the streets. There's no reason for them to be doing this to us. Because we're homeless, man. Get off our face, man.
I don't like the fact that the horses don't have gas masks on. The officers on top of them do.
I'm squad a battalion of about 40.
I have to tell you that I have absolute confidence in their capability and the actual performance that they have displayed over the last several days. I think they have done just an outstanding job.
The rich defend the people, not the rich defend the people.
And yet the people are not, seem to be in favor of it.
Yeah, well, the people
United will never be divided. The people
are not being well served by the demonstrations that are going on here.
Well, they don't feel they're being well served by the World Trade Organization, sir.
No, I think a lot of people do.
Well, workers aren't going to get any more exploited than they are now. If anything, it's going to help the third world nations.
Yeah, it's like, where do you draw the line? You know, you're not going to wear Nike tennis shoes? You're not going to wear, you know...
Well, don't you think the people who make the tennis shoes should get paid a fair wage?
Sure, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Fair enough.
What's fair in one country is different in another.
Well, I don't think a lot of people in these streets feel that way.
Yeah, this is a small percentage. But
this is a small percentage of what?
The people who are you with?
You get pepper spray?
Tear gas grenade.
You picked one up?
I picked one up. Now I was going to take it home. And the cops jumped on me.
All right, your eyes. Okay, cool.
Here, I'm gonna throw baking soda on you. Okay? Okay, close your eyes. Close your eyes.
I'm just a bystander, you know.
Oh.
Sorry.
It helps.
Doesn't take out the Burning Man.
What happened, man?
I'm just a bystander, you know, walking through to catch my bus.
McDonald's, why are they trying to push us down the street? We're just trying to sit here and be nosy. Can we be nosy in the seat? They're doing unnecessary tear gas. Unnecessary.
We had to run. My son dragged me through the goddamn alley and everywhere to get away from the stuff.
Are you guys with the National Guard?
Yes.
Did you just arrive, or you've been here all weekend?
We've been here all day. We're here just to keep the peace, that's it. Our opinions are our own, and that's why we try to keep them, and because it's just here to make sure that the people don't have no problems.
We came here because we have got a big problem in Chile. Since a long time that there are coming big companies from the United States trying to cut down our forests.
The Global Free Logging Agreement is a plan by the World Trade Organization to increase logging worldwide by eliminating trade barriers to forest products such as wood and paper.
This is an agreement that has been negotiated completely in secret without any input from non-governmental organizations, and we're here to send a very clear message to the Clinton administration that the Global Free Logging Agreement is completely unacceptable.
Even their own study shows that it will increase logging in the most sensitive and biologically rich forests of countries like Chile, Indonesia, Malaysia, countries where timber corporations are heading already because they don't have very good environmental laws, they don't have good labor laws, and they have lots of virgin forests left.
What this means to Indonesia is one of the largest producer of timber is increase the logging.
Our forests are very special in the world. There are not other forests like ours in all over the world.
Yeah, so we already lost 50% of our forest, and now with this agreement we predict that we will increase 6% of our logging or exploitation of timber.
This came from a briefing with the U.S. Trade Representative's office, okay, with a bunch of forest protection groups, and it confirmed all of our worst fears.
Yeah?
They want to sign this free logging agreement this week. This week they want to finalize it. You want to put into the next round all of our protections for raw log export bans, invasive species, eco labeling, all those things are going to be on the table. The MAI, the whole investment agenda.
The industry's mouth is watering right now because they expect huge increases in wood and paper consumption as a result of the global free logging agreement. Needless to say, this is the same industry that's been lobbying the Clinton administration heavy, that gives a lot of campaign donations to administrations and government officials and politicians, not just in the United States, but in other countries as well. These logging industries and these wood and paper industries are extremely excited about the free logging agreement.
It's insane to use these forests without to have enough information.
When we look at what things like the global free logging agreement are going to do to our environmental protections and what the World Trade Organization intends to do with our environmental protections, it's egregious. It's just plain wrong.
Laws protecting the environment and human rights that were enacted through valid democratic processes are superseded by trade agreements that have had absolutely no input from democratic processes. People, we were completely left out. Now, Weyerhaeuser Corporation, which we're here to protest, is part of the industry advisory committee that has advised the United States Trade Representative on these agreements.
Well, we've won essentially on a number of domestic fronts through the democratic process. So the timber corporations have gone to the international trade realm, which is out of the democratic process. There's no access for non-governmental organizations, for citizens, for activists to participate. It's just the governments and the corporations.
Well, Charlene Barshevsky is our representative, is representing the Clinton administration as the lead negotiator in the WTO. And as I understand it, she's an attorney. She has a background lobbying for Canadian timber interests. And this is part of the whole revolving door system that has plagued our government for years. She has to understand that we will not accept any kind of trade negotiation regimen that threatens important laws like the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Air Act, both of which have already been eroded through trade agreements under NAFTA and the WTO.
The news cameras are more interested in covering, the chaos rather than the substance of what's going on inside.
And so I go over there, and it ends up being a certified NGO who's in the conference, listening to all the closed-door legislation they're doing, and it's Victor Minotti.
I haven't heard any news other than that the third world wants to change the rules on fracking.
There was a police car waiting to the left of me on 4th Avenue, behind a police cordon, and they opened up, they zipped in, they popped open the door, they threw Victor in, and they were gone. And it was that quick.
Of the people that have been involved in demonstrations all this week have been involved peacefully.
By setting up a no protest zone, basically police lumped all protesters together and interfered with the rights of people who are doing perfectly lawful things to express their views on a major political issue that's currently getting a lot of attention.
Yesterday, my boyfriend and my mother went downtown to see what was going on.
And I don't think they should get arrested. Let them demonstrate and express solidarity with their brothers and their friends and their comrades in the manner that they're doing. They're not hurting anything.
And they were clearly a mile out of the protest-free zone when standing on a corner, a couple hundred people, when they were surrounded by police cars, or actually the tanks, the armored tanks, and without any provocation or warning, then they started loading them onto buses.
We have not been read our rights. We have not been told our charges. They just loaded us up, and here we are.
They were forced to, on the bus, relieve themselves on the bus. They wouldn't let them out to do anything. and they refused them any legal counsel.
We have been arrested without being charged, and we are being detained here without being charged, and we'd like to speak with our lawyer.
I want to speak to a lawyer.
I just got a phone call from him from inside of the prison, and he sounded very, very meek, very, very broken, very tired. He hasn't slept at all.
I've witnessed things in the last 4 days that I didn't believe could happen in America.
And he actually said he saw people beaten right in front of him at the King County Jail. He was very adamant that he couldn't even begin to tell me the things that he's seen.
Agreed to have the riot police here stand down. There will be no tear gassing. There will be nothing. Just to stand down on the police.
We are not going away tomorrow, the day after. They're continuing negotiations. That we will not go away. We will come back tomorrow. We will come back the next day. We will make sure they are out. We will be at the mayor's office, in front of this jail, at Sandpoint, wherever we have to fucking go to make sure that every single one of them is out.
As a result of the sit-in and the direct action and this incredible rally and march, the lawyers now have access to the political prisoners that have been taken captive in the last 2 days here in Seattle. They have the right to meet with them in large groups and make consensus decisions, and they have the right to have an organizer with them. So that's an incredible achievement. I mean, we're now enjoying more than our constitutional rights rather than less than our constitutional rights.
I think that this is the beginning of a national and international movement against the elite, outrageous power of multinational corporations.
We will stop this war against the earth. We will stop the war against the small farmers. We will stop the war against our bodies.
I would never knowingly permit a single pound of any American food product to leave this country if I had a shred of evidence that it was unsafe.
Genetic engineering allows scientists to move genes across species barriers in many ways not possible through conventional breeding techniques. Some sources for these genes include bacteria, viruses, and even animals.
But everybody must understand, we have nothing to hide, and we're eating this food too.
Just think what's happened in the United States this century with the bioinvasive alien species like the gypsy moth, like the chestnut blight that wiped out the most important tree in the eastern United States practically overnight. Now we have the zebra mussel plague. Here and everywhere, we have this incredible damage, over $100 billion a year damaged under our economy by these exotic species. That should scare us into being very careful about introducing new exotic things. One reason we're here at Safeway is that we wrote the major grocery stores and asked them to go free of genetically engineered ingredients. Safeway wrote back and said it's really not possible. Most of the stuff on all the grocery store shelves in the United States has genetically engineered ingredients. Our estimate that is that 70% of the food people are eating today has these genetically engineered ingredients.
The reason most people don't have an idea of the risk is because for a whole decade there has been a scientific censorship about looking at these risks. A very convenient tool called the substantial equivalence principle was cooked up to say, let's just treat genetically engineered organisms like conventional crops.
The FDA's policy is not science-based. In fact, we have 3 groups in the United States government: EPA, the Agriculture Department, and the Food and Drug Administration. And none of them have checked out the long-term consequences of eating genetically engineered food. None of them can tell you what a diet of this would do to you over 10 years or 20 years. we're experimenting with our families and with our children. And what does the stuff that they give us do? It's not any better nutritionally or cost-wise. It's a big scam because the major corporations like Monsanto want to control every aspect of agriculture.
A lot of what the Food and Drug Administration in the US has used to show the supposed safety of these foods has come from industry itself. There isn't really a lot of independent research that's been done to establish what the ecological hazards might be from GE foods.
Many of us are concerned with what its implications will be in terms of class and race issues. We know with organic foods there are huge populations, pockets of society, which are unable to buy organic food. Are we talking about creating a society where the rich might be able to afford to buy foods which are labeled that they're free of GMOs, and leaving the inner city communities, people of color, low-income communities being forced to eat foods which we are not sure if they're environmentally safe, and as far as our health concerns are concerned, if they're safe or not?
Well, what's happened in England is that there's been really a total collapse in the market for GM agriculture. People over there, once they realised they were being fed food that they didn't want to eat, and once they saw Monsanto's advertising campaign, which was trying to make them feel guilty about blocking developments that would feed the world, it's obviously patent rubbish, people got very angry and they've decided they don't want to eat it.
Campesinos nuestros, hermanos nuestros en la India, en Brasil, han quemado, destruido plantaciones de organismos genéticamente modificados de algodón, maíz, soya y otros, principalmente de Monsanto, la transnacional norteamericana, Cargill y Novartis. Entonces, no a los organismos genéticamente modificados.
What is happening is that you have to buy the seeds to be able to grow. If farmers get hooked on this, it's not only farmers in the south who are going to suffer, it's farmers in the north as well.
But even in the United States, where more than 1,500 farmers have been sued for pirating seed when all they did was save seed, which is what farmers must do. It is their moral duty.
And one can say that our seeds that we have are a product of this long-term process of selection, natural selection. So it belongs to our society, to our culture.
We are here in Seattle also at the World Trade Organization because this body is about to perpetuate the Frankenfood experiment on the entire planet. It's bad enough that the Clinton administration did this to the American people. Now he's trying to get all of the world to accept this.
I always thought you traded because somebody had something that you couldn't grow or you couldn't produce yourself. I always thought that was the reason for trading, not because you wanted to force what you have down somebody else's throat, even if they have a surplus of that same commodity in their own country. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, the thing is, food is the common denominator. You know what I'm saying? Everybody gotta eat. Everybody gotta eat. And if people are eating unhealthy food, I mean, they can survive. There'll be something resembling a human continuing to exist. But just like anything else, it's like if you got a car, you be putting jacked off gas up in it, it's not gonna work right.
First of all, I want to see what they're talking about and learn more about the WTO. I kind of know what it's about a little bit, not too much, but I'm just here to see what it's about. And people didn't come here from different states for nothing.
I come from a sugar factory in Minnesota, and I'm here for our brothers and sisters in the labor movement.
We used to have 47 dairies in our county. Now we have 3, and they're all in financial trouble.
And it's a sad, sad thing to see abandoned farms and see schools abandoned and housing in small towns and small businesses all abandoned.
Well, when you look at it, you see that there's approximately 5 companies in the entire world that control nearly 100% of all the grain in the world.
And so if you have farmers in North America, if you have farmers everywhere, they're not getting the profits from food. It's global corporations that are acting as middlemen.
And you wonder why the farmer worldwide doesn't control his own market and why he's suffering low prices and why he's being shoved aside.
Oh, this is beautiful. I knew that something was going to happen this year that was going to mess up their whole New World Order thing. I didn't know what it was. but this is it. This is mess up the whole New World Order thing, because the American people are the last people to wake up. Because American people are so completely controlled by the mass media and the advertisement out of Hollywood, they were kept asleep during all this time period. So now this is waking them up into what the real deal is. When America wakes up, it's all over for the multinationals.
When workers realize that they've got the same interests as farmers, as students, as environmentalists, not letting corporations have all the power. There has to be some balance.
Well, I'm here for the same reason that I've been here for everything else, is to protest the corporate takeover of everything, including our food supply and the safety of food. I'm very concerned about genetically modified food and the way it's being forced on the world's people, and I think that here in the United States we have been in a news blackout until recently, when Europe and Indian people have been protesting, and it's been getting into our news here now that this is happening. We have the opportunity to really educate the American people about this, because we know that they don't want it.
Well, I just want to let everybody know that the black farmers were the canaries that were sent down the mine shaft first, and they saw how they can get rid of us, and now they're using the same tactics they used to get rid of us, to get rid of the small farmers all over the world, and to get rid of small farmers here in America.
The WTO, it's a creature that does not listen to the people.
And that's why we wanted to be in the big march on the 13th. And this big march, farmers and workers were together in the first line. And for us, this was very important, because it's the first time in the world story that we can make that link between workers and farmers. And I think that's the 21st century begin on the 30th of November. Workers, farmers, environmentalists, consumers, everybody has to work together.
Well, as always, we need to be eternally vigilant. We need to think about stopping the WTO, reforming the WTO, to make it stand up for human rights, environmental rights, and the rights of our farmers to have a decent living, and also the rights of farm workers.
These kinds of campaigns will have to translate and multiply to various cities and states of United States and other countries of the world, and ultimately the people will win.
There are more farmers and more land. If equitably distributed and worked to feed all the people in the world, we don't need test tube food by Monsanto.
My mama taught me years ago, don't ever put anything in your mouth unless you know where it came from.
We will never, ever in the future allow them to divide American farmers and Indian farmers, consumers from producers.
They can gas us as they've done this week. They can shoot us. They can herd us like animals down the street. They can rip up our Constitution in front of us.
They can't stop us, though. They can't stop us. They gassed us yesterday. They shot us yesterday. They had us cornered off on the streets. And still today, I mean, there's more people out than there were yesterday. The cops gave us an escort down here today. You know what I'm saying? They can't stop it.
You are now the messengers to go out to the countryside, to go into your churches, to go into the community organization, to link arms and build a coalition, not just with the bean sprout eaters. Get those snuff dippers on our side too. We've got to team up together and take power back for the people.
We came with a message to represent our people and say hell no, and we're taking a message back that we're more unified than ever, and we will win.
Was it Caesar Saunders? Maybe it was Dorothy Day. Well, some will say Dr. King or Gandhi set them on their way. No matter who your mentors are, it's pretty plain to see. If you've been to jail for justice, you're in good company. Have you been to jail for justice? I want to shake your hand. Oh, sitting in and lying down are ways to take a stand. And we sung a song of freedom amongst that picket line. Have you been to jail for justice? Oh, you're a friend of mine. You law-abiding citizens, listen to this song. The laws were made by people. People can be wrong. Once unions were against the law, but slavery was...
The World Trade Organization is the only international organization dealing with the global rules of trade between nations. Its main function is to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. The result is a more prosperous, peaceful, and accountable economic world.
This is the beginning, and everything's at stake.
There's only one thing that the ruling interests have ever wanted, and that's everything.
What we are against is trade at any cost.
This is not about trade. This is about a corporate constitution.
We're pitted to be pitted against each other in a race to the bottom. Who will accept the most miserable working conditions?
Tonight, the World Trade Organization meetings are being declared a failure.
We shut down the WTO. We've made their meetings cancel. We've expressed to the world that we're not going to put up with this undemocratic system and this kind of institutions that push us down.
Organized labor does not tolerate lower standards for any worker, anywhere, for any reason. We will fight for those workers, and we will not stop.
I think what was accomplished was the building of a network of people that is going to be very difficult to break.
We've demonstrated that this is an issue of great importance to ordinary Americans of every stripe, from every political spectrum. And in addition, I think that we have discovered ourselves. We have discovered that we are part of a larger group, a larger family of people who believe still in democracy.
No more violence! No more violence!
What happened today was there was a total collapse in the decision-making structure of the global corporate rule hierarchy, and you had such a revolt going on outside the ministerial with people on the street and protesters and so on, and you had a serious revolt inside the ministerial.
Delegates will be leaving Seattle tomorrow, Dan, and they'll have nothing to show for their effort.
With third world governments saying that they're not going to go for any more crappy deals and being excluded by the rich countries. I mean, the protesters provided all the chaos and the noise outside, and they were definitely heard, and I like to think that that sort of inspired many countries who were also excluded from the process to speak up for themselves and be bold. And that helped grind things to a stop.
The issues the delegates were talking about here and the issues the people outside were protesting about, they concurred. The only difference is that the people out there were not able to come in here. And I agree with the president of this country who said that we also need to listen to those people and listen to the issues that they're bringing forward. The issues that delegates had brought forward, particularly the ones from Africa, were not taken into consideration. The meeting was conducted in a very non-participatory manner, in a very undemocratic manner, very non-transparent, and therefore we felt that in many situations that we were left out in the discussions, and therefore we had nothing to discuss, therefore we had nothing to agree on. And a lot of delegates did agree with us as well. Therefore, for this reason, we feel that unfortunately this meeting could not continue in that manner.
Ambassador Barshevsky from the US and Mike Moore just gave a very brief and long-faced explanation for how there are deep crises within the institution. They said that the WTO is taking a time out. That something's going to continue on in Geneva, but there are no parameters or no timetables or really anything. So for us, it's total victory.
Bottom line of why the negotiations fell apart was a combination of two factors. For the first time in the GATT or WTO negotiations, countries came here having told their public they wouldn't undermine their public interest, and this time they were sufficiently exposed that when the closed room deals started, in fact they were held to what their public wanted.
The politics of the WTO and the politics of trade in the United States and across the globe will never quite be the same.
Democracy looks like. You cannot unite the world around jobs and productivity and trade without representation from the people, the real people, not just the bureaucrats controlled by the puppet strings of the dollar bill, but the real people, the workers of this world, the people who build the buildings, the people, the real people, the people on the assembly lines. You must include the people.
Well, definitely today we have shown that people can be united against the mighty force.
Well, what you saw today in Seattle was the most significant victory for fair trade and against corporate-dominated trade in the last 40 years of trade battles in the United States.
Everybody goes back to their four corners of the world now to take democracy back and spread it. And that's the real key. Take the whole world tell the world about the WTO. Tell them that it's a people's uprising that's going to stop it, and that's what we have to do.
Now we continue to hound the WTO. We have this enormous political space that we've opened now, where the WTO is at a standstill, and we are there to sort of rush in and take the floor and really push for the alternatives that we have. I mean, that's what the discussion needs to be about. What are the rules going to be, and who's going to write them? And that's what we've won today.
We need to keep the pressure on so that labor, environment, and all the other concerns come together to focus on getting our voice into the WTO so that these deals aren't made behind closed doors.
I think the United States is a kind of die-hard free trader, but normal citizens, environment groups, etc., are strongly against that direction. I was so much impressed with these people.
I think the big message we take is to go back to our own original places and organize ourselves against the mighty power.
We keep going. This is just the beginning. Definitely, this is not protests. These are not just protests in the street. This is a mobilization of the communities and people that are all around us. So we're going to continue.
We're speaking out for the people.
I was really pissed off this whole Generation X or apathetic portrayal of like young people, when in fact we're or people I've seen are incredibly passionate, and the problem usually has been the lack of options we have for expressing ourselves.
People have realized how much youth are organizing and how educated youth are and how dedicated youth are and how important they are.
There were a lot of minors. We had to do separate jail solidarity trainings.
I've been out on the streets every single day this whole week, and every time I go home, I watch TV and it's just totally fucked up. The media's been covering it so wrong, and it's been always geared towards violence and riots when there has been no violence or riots towards particularly the youth activism.
A lot of the time, the media does play up they're just young and idealistic, They'll sell out like all their parents did in the 60s.
That's not what the whole message here is about. It's about getting our point across, having our voices heard. It's not about all that.
People were turning against the youth as if we were all the anarchists and all. It was like turning against us when we should be in solidarity. So I said, the only violence that's been done has been by the police, and youth don't hurt people like WTO.
I'm not really that surprised in a sense, because I knew we always had it in us. I'm just glad that we had the occasion for it to come together like this.
We're standing up and we're fighting and we're going to keep going.
We got to do this. We got to go out here.
Right.
And our membership has always stood up and was counted when it came time to talk about issues around the world.
We in the International Longshore and Warehouse Union want to give them the welcome they deserve and let them know what we think of their plans. So we've closed the Port of Seattle and other ports on the West Coast.
It showed the solidarity of all organized labor when we shut down the waterfront and stood shoulder to shoulder with the rest of our union members.
Well, this is kind of a, what should I say, a tool of last resort, and we have used it very sparingly, but you know, there have been times when we have refused to load cargo that was going to South Africa or unload cargo that was coming from South Africa, where we have deeply felt a connection with the people and their struggle.
Our members finally realized that, you know, just because the cargo's coming in, we have to look at how it's being produced, and we were discovering child labor that they were using. The type of slavery, type of labor force they were using, and our members said, you know, morally, we've got to stand up.
When the Spirit says stand, we're gonna stand, stand, stand. We're gonna stand when the Spirit says stand. We're gonna fight.
You know, we've been talking about this for the last year. Quite frankly, like most of the people in Seattle didn't know what the WTO was. We're no longer in the dark on how the environment is being abused in Southeast Asia, how the people are being abused in El Salvador.
I guess it's a real honor to be working in a union that is as democratic as the ILWU and that has such a rich history of standing behind human rights.
This is what I do every morning. Come down here and stand around, drink coffee. Mostly I drive heavy equipment. There used to be thousands of longshoremen down here. Now we're a number probably around 500, moving faster and moving more cargo. They're calling me right now to be dispatched. So I guess I escaped.
In this industry, being a union is the only thing. None of the benefits, none of the safety conditions, none of the working conditions we would have would ever be there without the solidarity and the unanimity of the longshoremen on the west coast of the United States.
I think that one of the most exciting things about being in the march was the opportunity to link up with people from all over the world. And I think when you're dealing with a global entity such as the WTO, you kind of have to have a global voice.
Some of the very issues that we hope to bring forward and to put on the table of the WTO now are being discussed. Without our presence in the streets of Seattle and without our massive solidarity by labor, not only in this area but across the country, wouldn't have been accomplished.
We're going to keep that voice loud and clear, that you start treating your people with dignity. You start paying them a decent wage. You know, you allow them to organize themselves, you know, or you're not going to get your cargo moved as fast as you think you can. And we'll continue to be the forefront in the struggle for human dignity.
Now that Seattle is winding down with the demonstrations and our efforts, we should keep the feet to the fire of the WTO.
So the nice thing about an American police state is that while they do block off the street in this zone, you can still get to the local shopping mall. Subject to film. So can you tell me, are you going to have a chance to do some holiday shopping this year?
Oh yeah, I do a lot of holiday shopping.
That's great.
My holiday shopping plans. Well, now that everything's boarded up downtown and there's police surrounding most of the malls.
Can you get to do some holiday shopping this year? No, okay.
Police and National Guardsmen have been working overtime this week to protect the city, and they're getting a lot of thanks for their efforts. In fact, some people are bringing hot coffee and treats to the troops as they stand in the streets.
Yeah, it's been amazing. We've had cookies, bagels, coffee. They just go into stores and buy stuff for us. It's been great.
You all right, dude?
Well, the main motivation for us starting the Independent Media Center was focus on the ground here in Seattle, recognizing the importance of this issue, and also that all these tremendous, brilliant, articulate people were coming from all over the world to speak truth to power here, to confront globalization and its anti-democratic agenda.
One of the critical aspects to this center is that it's been a clearinghouse of information for lots of individuals, not only who live in Seattle, but have been coming in from around the country and around the globe to participate in the events this week. And we are providing a base of operation for journalists and others who are going out into the streets and capturing the content, editing the content, and then distributing it over the internet, over satellite, over faxes, literally around the world.
We have to find our own ways to get the message out. So because the revolution will not be televised by the corporate media, we hope that the information that has been presented to you by the alternative media is one that you will learn.
What's really important to note about the whole center that's taking place is that it's fairly unprecedented. We've got teams that are covering video, we've got teams that are covering print. We have a newspaper actually being published every day out of this center.
The Blind Spot, which is this paper, it's the paper that the Independent Media Center puts out every day during the WTO. And it's basically like a 11 by 17 fold over that's front and back, and which is pretty much all we can afford to do. I'm sure we could fill a lot more of it at this point. And this was today's headline.
So you weren't read any of your rights when you were arrested? And how long have you been held?
My friend Bjorn, who works here at the IMC, said, Pete, you should come over and get an audio recorder and record what you were doing. You know, and so I came over here and I got one, and I've been out in the streets, and I've interviewed everybody from National Guard to a retired police officer, 15 years or 30 years with the Seattle Police Force, as well as local citizens, as well as, of course, protesters.
I've been editing a lot of audio. Yeah, I think it's really important. That's why I've been here. I think it's more important for me than going out in the streets, because protest really works when everyone knows about it. That's the whole point, is to go and get your word across and your message out. And for me, being here, I can get a whole lot more people's message out than just one body in thousands.
What we're doing here is we're watching footage of video that's been shot, that we're picking out segments, short 30-second to 1-minute segments, to be encoded to be put on the web.
We take the tapes as they come in from the streets, and we dub them immediately to VHS so that they can send them to the other place where the satellite feeds editing is going on. And those VHS tapes are brought down, and we digitize those immediately, and we're just looking for little snippets, interesting things that can inform people.
Actually, my life has been hell throughout the week in trying to make sure that the site is up, because we had not expected so many hits coming in from all over the world. So mainly my job has been to make sure that the site is up.
Welcome to the video desk at the Independent Media Center. What we're doing here is taking tapes in from the field. Over 100 videographers from around the country have come to Seattle to make sure that we break past the corporate media blockade and get images out. Not only images of the police brutality that's been happening, but of course the messages as well.
It's 6 o'clock in the morning. What are you up to?
We are going to the docks to talk to rank and file longshoremen and the Vice President of the Longshoremen's Union to talk to them about the impact of imports and possible decisions by the WTO on their jobs and their lives in the community.
To the people, the whole world is going to listen to the voice of the people. They cannot ignore it. There's thousands of us here. There's thousands of us, and we are not afraid. I'm thrilled to be here.
So this is where the dubbing and logging of all the tapes that come into the center happen. They come up from 3rd Avenue, and we have people working here to dub them off and keep a log of what's on them, and then we have sort of an organized system for getting them to the editors.
Given that we started planning this a month ago, we did 5 days of satellite casting, 1 hour a day, half-hour program production every day. All volunteer crews with little or no money to get off the ground. I think it's amazing. And I think the series is probably going to be one of the best documents of what happened here this week.
The individuals here are concerned about getting the truth out, and you know, it's focus which makes things happen, and desire and perseverance.
We've also started talking about using this model and trying to go elsewhere in the country and the world and help people kind of set up similar centers so that there really could be an alternative media network around the world.
We have decided to stop to cry to them and start mobilize grassroots. The power is in the people.
We have the power. Let's use it. Let's sound the drum. Let's get the alarm out and get the information out.
And we are not afraid. Come Disney World.
The WTO protests were not about a few isolated issues. They were about a corporate attempt to take away our power. The brutality of the police was not the crime of a few individual cops. It was the reaction of a system threatened by the sound of our voices. In the streets, we did not ask for concessions. In these days, we were free. This is what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like!
I've never seen people stand up like this before. And I'm going to take this home, and this is going to keep me going for a long time. Because it's really opened my eyes to some amazing possibilities.
This is what democracy looks like!
We've seen something that we need to be able to carry with us and keep going. Because something like this is going to happen again before too long. You know, this is the turning point. We have the beginnings of a new movement, I think.
There was a banner, you know, Teamsters and Turtles together at last. That was so wonderful. Of course, we belong together. The same people who exploit natural resources exploit human resources. We belong together.
It's time to stop feeling as though we are isolated entities living lives of unsatisfactory consumption and oppression. It's that we can do it. It's that we have it in us.
Isn't this extraordinary? I've been around since the 60s and my dad in the 30s with the UAW, and this is really happening for the first time. It's great.
The WTO went against too many people at once. You know, labor, environmental movement, women's rights, animal rights, every different type of group of people as affected by this in some way, shape, or form. And that's their worst mistake ever. If they had kept their power a little bit more hidden, then they would probably be okay. But you know what? They made the biggest mistake ever because they pissed off too many people. And now we're going to fight back. And we're going to fight back unified. And that's what's going to help us.
critique the World Trade Organization, you have to critique capitalism, which is great. It's about time we were able to do that. So this is wonderful. This is all labor. The ordinary people that work for a living, the unions are opposing it on an enormous scale. The entire West Coast was locked down. Nothing was loaded or unloaded on the docks from Alaska all the way to San Diego on Tuesday. The entire West Coast. I mean, this is major. This is major.
I think the people behind on the other side of the screen, the people watching this at home, should recognize that the world has woken up and that there's a huge demand for fair trade, and there's a lot more imagination going on in the streets and in social movements about what our global economy can look like than there is going on in those meetings.
I am reading this off my pager.
I am reading this off my pager.
This is direct information.
This is direct information.
A complete collapse.
A complete collapse.
There will be no new millennium round.
Was it Caesar Chavez? Maybe it was Dorothy Day. Well, some will say Dr. King or Gandhi set them on their way. No matter who your mentors are, it's pretty plain to see. If you've been to jail for justice, you're in good company. Have you been to jail for justice? I want to shake your